So greetings, dear friends. Nice to see you on ALLATRA TV. And today we are going to talk about very, very important topic, creative society, because it's so important to understand how we people do really want to live in society where we actually deserve to live, where every person would live comfortable, would live prosperously in all spheres of our life. Because not all people have even tried to answer such question, but it's so important to understand what is our common goal as a humanity. So creative society indeed a very unique project, because nowadays millions of people from all over the world framing and shaping their future society where we all want to live in. So dear viewers, the goal of the project is to build a society free from the consumeristic mindset only by peaceful means. More information you may find on the website ALLATRAunites.com. And my name is Anna, and today I will be hosting the interview with Anastasia. Hello.
Good evening, dear friends. And I'm so happy to introduce our guest today, Joanna James, a successful business founder and chief ambassador for the Successful Woman. She is also an author of the book Mind, Body, Spaces. Good evening, Joanna.
Good evening, Anastasia. Good evening, Anna. Thank you so much for having me tonight on the show.
Welcome, Joanna, to the Live Conversation. We've heard so many interesting activities you are involved in, and could you please share with us what motivates you and inspires you in your professional work and in your general daily life?
Okay. Well, yes, that's true. I have multiple parts of my professional life, which I find inspiring in itself. Having that creativity and that variety is always a source of inspiration for me. But essentially, at the heart of all of it, it's actually about helping people. So what I love to do is I love to help people, whether that be through the Successful Woman Initiative, where my partner Namrita and I follow in the footsteps of the founder Ron Malhotra in really helping to empower people live the life and have the lifestyle that they choose and desire, or whether it be through my work as an architect and designer, and with my recent book Mind, Body, Spaces, it's about helping people understand how the places that we live in affect our health, wealth and well-being. And I also am the GM of a very successful and very busy finance company here in Australia. So we help people actually participate in being able to buy their home or buy their investment properties, so we're able to help them on their journey as well in that way. So 3 different ways that I work professionally, but at the heart of it, always about helping people achieve their dreams.
Yeah, that's what I would like, to say, because in all your activities, you just mentioned that they help people, help people to do this, help people to do that, because it's really the beauty of things and really the most, inspiring one when you're doing it for someone. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you so much that you share with us what inspires you in life. So, from your perspective of view, firstly, of course, we would like to ask you as a human, how do you envision creative society? Please answer to this really important question, which nowadays answering all people all around the world. So how do you envision such creative society?
Yeah, well, there's so much beauty in the concept of the creative society. So for me, being a visual person and at heart a designer, I just see it as an incredibly beautiful place, not only physically, but one that's in tune with nature and one that also supporting the planet. Because obviously, we talk about the principles of supporting human life. Well, one of the things we need to do is to look after the planet that we're living on, because she is the being that's actually supporting all humanity at this point in time. But also the beauty around people being free from fear. So I think, at the heart, when you have the 8 foundations, what you're really able to do is you're able to be your authentic self, living your life without fear. And that is always a source of beauty and always going to create beautiful things, because it's coming from a pure vibration. It's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of inspiration. So for me, I envision it as being a beautiful place where people are free.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And such a society we can build only together as a whole humanity. in unity, right? And in your opinion, Joanna, what unites all people around the globe, regardless of nationality, religion, and social status?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, particularly when you're thinking about the last 12 months. So the truth is that all humans are united, whether we realize it or not. In fact, we're all connected. Everybody in the entire planet and everything on the planet is connected. We are, in fact, all one ecosystem. But the fact is that unfortunately in today's world, it usually takes a travesty or some sort of emergency for people to actually act on that and to realize that, we do have this connection. And so we're going through a very interesting time with COVID and realizing that, this is a global impact and it's impacting everybody in a way that they're realizing that we are all connected. There's no boundaries here. There's no political boundaries here. There's no country boundaries here. There's no gender boundaries. There's no age boundaries. This is something that, is affecting everybody on the planet. And it's really highlighting the way in which we are all one. The question is, out of a crisis also comes opportunity. So, as a humanity, the question is now we realize that we are all connected. Are we going to celebrate that connection in a way that supports hope and faith and peace and prosperity? Or are we going to become fearful of that connection? Because at any time in life, there really is only two choices. It's either fear or love. And we're operating on one of these vibrations at all time. And everything that we think, everything that we feel is sending out a pulse of vibration. So there's been many, many things over the period of time that's evidenced the fact that we can change the physical experience of the planet just with our thoughts and focusing our feelings and emotions. And this is how connected we are. And so at this point in time for the planet, it's really a opportunity for us to realize that we are all connected and we actually have more power in that connection than has been explained to us before. And so instead of keeping us separated, we can actually come together and we can celebrate. And we really genuinely, wherever we are in the world, whether it be through a Zoom call or whether it just be quietly in our own morning meditations, we have an impact in the world with everything that we do. Everything that we think, everything that we say, every action that we take is contributing to the experience of the planet. And every single one of us is individually responsible for our participation in the collective.
Wow, such a really, great answer. For me, so interesting. And also about this notion that really we have two ways, to using this understanding that we are all connecting. And really, if we just feel this fear towards it, or we will choose, and using really for the benefit of all of us. Well, thank you so much, Joanna, for such a really valuable, answer, and it really gives us understanding. So that's why I really like such conversation, because, for all of us, it's really enriching, for example, my picture and make it more wider of the creative society. So thanks a lot about this. And also when you answered about the Creative Society, you mentioned about the 8 foundations. So let's talk about them now, and just let's watch a short video about them, so to understand how they really framed.
Fantastic.
This Creative Society project was born by the initiative of the people themselves. After we carried out many social surveys, interviews, conferences, and we talked to many people really all over the world. These 8 foundations of the Creative Society is the result of the desire, the demand of the people themselves, because they talk about it. They tell us how they want to live, where, in what world, in what kind of society they want to live, what values are the most important for them, And after analyzing everything, we understand that yes, there are these 8 foundations that now we can share with everybody. It is a complex of values of each person in this world.
Yes, thank you. So that's actually, like the beauty of these 8 foundations, because they like came from those answers what people actually would like to see in our society. So just Joanna, could you please also share that we know that you read about this 8 foundation and have some your understanding. So please share with us.
Absolutely. So, I mean, what's interesting about the number 8 is it's actually the number of infinity. Yeah. So it's perpetuating. So, it's curious to me, first of all, that there are 8 foundations. So it's based on the energy of perpetuity. But, if you look at the 8 principles being, human life, human freedom, human safety. And what's really interesting about human safety is that it's not just about physical safety, it's about people having food and housing and medical care, and access to, social services, which right now on the planet is something that's really being tested, because there are countries that are collapsing under the fact that the privatization of the hospitalization has meant that there are many people that don't get care. There are many people that when COVID came, there was no support, there was no government support. Everything just stopped, and so these things are being highlighted all around the world where we currently don't have these values. But transparency and openness, I just love that one, right? Particularly when you look into that foundation, you're talking about, the media for the society, right? Which is very different to social media, which is actually, got huge bias. Yeah. So there's always manipulation in social media and advertising, and particularly in the work that we do at the Successful Women, we talk a lot about what drives us in life, where do we get our values, where do we get our beliefs from, how do we choose to be the sort of woman that we want to be. And a lot of this is coming in through the bombardment of information, and the way in which that is filtered to us, really then affects our reality, because we take on this information as beliefs. And so, that to me is very interesting, that we could potentially have, a society where the media is actually a society media. It's actually truthful or transparent. It's actually being honest with what is going on. And in fact, often, some of the most horrific things that are happening, they're not even covered in the news. They're just wiped, and then small things are manipulated and magnified for political glorification. And so, the media has a lot to answer for. And particularly in Australia, we recently had some very interesting events around, Facebook and advertising and, royalties and, a whole heap of things, because, it's a business, right? So, I mean, media is a business, right? It's not an altruistic thing at the moment. But, the 5th principle being the creative ideology, just amazing, because, personally speaking, I'm a very big believer that every human being is a creative being. And in fact, we're indoctrinated typically through schools, or sometimes, family or society, that you're either creative or you're not. You're either artistic or you're not. You're either good at maths or you're good at English, right? And so we're trained from a very young age to form and conform into these labels or these boxes, right? But really what this is talking about is, that everybody is creative. Everybody has the possibility to be creative, and, everybody is unique with how they create things. And that's something that we talk about a lot at the Successful Woman, because, a successful woman really understands the heart of what makes her sing, what makes her come alive. What is her passions? What's her purpose in life? What is it that she, embraces as being truly unique? and becomes authentic with that, and that is something that, you know, is a very, very powerful thing. So I absolutely loved the creative ideology and the idea that, you know, people can really embrace their own creativity, because creativity, it's everything. And we were creating all the time, second to second, humans are creating. And just in the same way that we talked about, you know, being in fear or in love, it's the same. You know, we're creating life, you know, second to second, you know, with who we are and how we are in the world. And so I absolutely love that. And the same too with the development of, you know, personality and really getting to have a life of personal fulfillment. Because I mean, every human being wants to feel that, you know, their life has meaning, that they've contributed, and that they are valued in their own right, you know, not necessarily because of the title that they hold at work, or, you know, what they, you know, specifically earn, or, you know, their role in society, but just as a human being, you know, that they are valued, that they have meaning, and that they've contributed in a very special way. And of course, you know, justice and equality, well, there's so much that could be said about that. And, you know, in the same way that we've talked about the media, well, you know, justice and equality, you know, really, that's definitely something that in the world needs to be, you know, definitely improved, because I don't believe that there's any systems, even in the democratic countries, you know, if you look at the way in which they've been manipulated, and, you know, the bureaucracy and the hoops and the way things happen, you know, that definitely we need to find a new structure for that. And in fact, you know, often we talk about, you know, you need to have a breakdown in order to have a breakthrough. And so, you know, a lot of systems around the world at the moment are being challenged, and they're really being reviewed to see, okay, what do we need as a human society on the planet? And some of these things need to break down in order for us to break through. So the fact that, you know, there's this justice and equality piece, and of course, self-governing society. Well, you know, I think, you know, it's what it really is the 8 foundations are about bringing people into alignment with who they really are, how they want to live their life, what life is about, how do we live in a creative society that's supportive, loving, nurturing, and, you know, one that is free from, you know, pain and suffering and fear and all of these things which are a lower vibration, and all of these things that, you know, bring these atrocities into our planet at the moment, all come from those lower based vibrations. And so, you know, the more people that we have around the planet who are operating from a different sphere, then the more we can contribute to raising the entire vibration of humanity. And so that was how I saw that the 8 foundations, and perfect that it was in an infinity symbol. And very interesting too, as we're currently in the age of 8 in terms of feng shui, we go into the age of 9 in a couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see vibrationally the last 20 years have been actually the age of 8 typically. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in a couple of years, and maybe there's a 9th foundation in there somewhere that's yet to emerge, or the 9th foundation is the combination of all of them in the planet. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see what happens vibrationally with that. So
wow, Joanna, this is so interesting. Thank you very much for sharing with us and our viewers your understandings. And as it mentioned in the 8th foundation of creative society, so we can see, so human is a fundamental unit of that society. And basically everything, you know, in our life, like format and relationships, development of all spheres, conditions in the world we live in, it all depends on us. And whether we do something or we just keep passive. So I would like to ask you, could you please elaborate on the role of every person in building of creative society? What's the, you know, the role of the person, like the human in the society?
sure. So it's an interesting thing when you talk about, you know, growth, and there's a significant shift for most people when you realize that actually you're in control of your reality. In fact, everything that's being created on the planet at the moment, every single person has been contributing towards. Yeah, when not only when we speak up about things, but when we don't speak up about things. So, you know, I suppose every individual is unique. It's like a giant 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Yeah. And we're contributing all of the time. And, you know, we have this belief that because we're such a small piece of this incredible picture, that, you know, we don't have any power, or we don't have any purpose in that. But the truth is that the power is actually magnified in the connection with all of us. And so the more that we can tap into that connection that already exists amongst not only humans, but all beings on the planet, yeah, animals, all vegetation, everything, yeah. Although we're talking about this from a human experience, then the more that you realize that every individual, in fact, has infinite power. Yeah, because that connection that keeps us together is a source of infinite power. And so with that comes a great responsibility. And so, you know, the fundamental things for humans to really decide is, are they willing to take responsibility for their part to play? Yeah. And, you know, as I said, you know, you're either being constructive and creative, or you're being destructive. You're either in love or you're in fear. The world has got a polarity, it's got a duality. We experience things, you know, yin and yang, black and white, night and day. So at all time, you're operating on one end of the spectrum, right? And so the question is, well, where are you right now? What are you thinking? What are you contributing? You know, all thoughts start as an energy. It goes out as a vibration. Everything that happens on the planet starts as a thought first. And so what is it that we're bringing our attention to in this moment? Is it constructive? Is it creative? Is it in support of humanity? Is it loving? Is it kind? Is it compassionate? Or have we got fear, resentment, anger, lack, hatred? You know, what is it that we're responsible for in this moment? And so the human experience is really, you know, at the heart of being able to create a creative society, is understanding that we're the ones that are doing it. Yeah, that we're the ones that hold the power, you know, the infinite power always within ourselves, 100% of the time, 100% of our life. And yet so many of us as humans believe that the power is somehow outside of us, or someone's taken our power away, or we didn't have the power to begin with. It's false. It's a lie. And so when we understand that we have that infinite source, that infinite knowledge, that infinite connection, that infinite ability, right, as a human being, you know, as a human being, also a soul on this journey of being a human being, because the soul is an important part of being a human being too, because it's not just about our physical body, it's about, you know, much more than that. Then that responsibility is really the key. And so that can be a wonderfully exciting journey. It can also be a confronting journey, you know, when you realize that you have to accept your part to play. Yeah. So often you'll realize that whatever it is you're sending it out into the world, well, it comes back someday. I mean, people talk about paying it forward, good karma, all of these sorts of things. So even if the number of humans on the planet just shifted the rate of their vibration, or the way in which we're sharing into the world in a significant way towards the 8 foundations of really valuing human life and valuing human freedom and wanting equality, caring for others, you know, demanding this type of transparency and equality for all beings, just that shift in itself would be contributing, even if the results may show up later in time, because sometimes these things take time to manifest into reality. But in this moment, we have everything that we need. Every thought that we have, every feeling that we have, we're creating in this moment. The question is, are we doing so intentionally? And so to me, that's at the heart of it. And, you know, the beauty is, when you've got a human being that has these 8 foundations, There's no need for fear. There's no need to be afraid. There's that, you know, all of that just disappears. Yeah. And so that reality doesn't require our focus anymore. There's no struggle for financial, there's no struggle for health, there's no struggle for not feeling, you know, happy with one's life, because you know you're being true to who you are. You're experiencing life in the way that you want to experience. You're creating life in the way that makes your heart sing. You're enjoying who you are. You're living in a sense of freedom. And what a beautiful way, you know, to live. Yeah. It's really what we're talking about is nirvana. That's really what we're talking about, is living life ultimately, you know, with complete freedom. Yeah. Not just human freedom, but freedom on all levels. Right. And from that place, you can create amazing things.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. And you know, it's have you mentioned, it's all in our hands. So we are creating by our own, because you know such conditions which we are again created by our own in nowadays society. At the same, we could like recreated it right in such way where we really wanted. And also, I really like it about the vibration what you are talking about. And you know, just came to my mind that really when we have a new year all over the world, right, and people are very happy, you really feel this in the air, how it's, you know, like happiness is all around us, because it's this time we are just celebrating. So in such case, we could create it in every day, right? But just the most people should just to choose positive, just to choose, you know, something creative and really good for us. Really amazing things. Thank you so much. And just, you know, like to continue this like topic, society free from the fear, because I really like, you know, this notion from you. So because I think it's indeed, you know, the key is what actually prevents us to live in a better society, the fear. This what actually prevents us as people. So let's, you know, now just watch an interesting cartoon from the conference Creative Society United We Can, and then it would be interesting, Joanna, to hear your comments then.
Elephants are habituated to a rope since childhood. First, they are tied to a tree, and an elephant calf trying to escape understands that the rope is many times stronger than him. Then, already being a grown-up elephant, he no longer even makes attempts to become free, because he understands that the rope, which is stronger than him, will win anyway. And when already a human who, well, the strength of a human and an elephant is incomparable, but an elephant still submits to a human and follows him with his head down, is the same in human society.
The whole point, imagine. An ordinary human, skinny and little, is leading an elephant on a rope. Why? Because the elephant believes that the rope is holding him. Friends, we have the same thing. Nothing is holding us, except our imaginary rope. And I would simply like to say, friends, let us stop being stupid elephants, and let's become humans.
Yeah, so what do you think?
Well, I think that's a perfect video for what we've been talking about. So what I would say to that is that it's really important as humans that we actually understand what makes us human. How does that work, and what's actually happening in our minds? So we do a lot of this work at the Successful Woman, where we help people understand what's creating your reality and what's holding you back. And so the truth is that in theory, you know, we might have a moment of inspiration and we're inspired. We've decided we're going to throw away the rope. We're going to become a free elephant. But the reality is that the patterning has been replayed again and again and again, and the paradigms in your mind create your reality. And so unless you're able to go back and rewire and understand where your paradigms are coming from, as soon as you step out to do something new, you go into cognitive dissonance, and all of a sudden you go into fear, right? Because your mind is telling you, hold on, this is something new, we haven't done it before. And so the first thing that happens is you will go back to the way you were before. And so, you know, one of the things that's really important in a creative society is educating people on how we create, because it's not something that's taught in school. It's not something that's taught in universities. And, you know, we're all born in human bodies, and yet we're not given an instruction manual on how the mind works and what's actually happening. And so, you know, this is going to be a really important part of creating the creative society, is giving the power back to humans to understand what's happening with us. Why do we do the things that we do? Why is it that we say this thing we want to do and then we attempt to do it and we fall back? You know, why is it that everybody's in such a great mood after New Year's, but 3 days later they're back in their old habits, right? Why is it that, you know, you go somewhere and you get inspired and you want to create change, and then 2 days later you wake up and you've forgotten what it was that you wanted to talk about anyway? And so these are the things that are really important for a creative society, is, you know, for people to value human life and human freedom. You really have to understand at the heart of that, how do we create? How is it that human beings are creating? Because it's not just going down to the shops and buying things with money. There's a whole lot more that's going on with that. And so actually empowering people to understand, how is it are we contributing, creating, and how do you actually make those changes in life, right? So at the moment, you know, you can look at the disparity proportion of wealth and abundance on the planet, but you could also look at the disproportionate amount of understanding around this knowledge. Yeah. If every human being really understood, right? And this is the analogy of the elephant and the rope, right? So, you know, you can decide to take the rope away, but every human being has their own rope, like an elephant. And unless you understand how those ropes come into place, so you can decide to cut the cord, you'll never truly be free. Right? You might for a moment, or you might believe that you are, but you will never truly be free until you understand, actually, you know what? That's in my imagination. That's not real. I can remove that and I can create a different reality. And so that to me is what I would say, perfect video for the conversation.
So it's very, very serious, you know, for our today's like topic. Thank you so much. Yeah, Nastasia, up to you.
And talking about society, you know, and understanding of creative society, I'm absolutely with you. Agree, Joanna, that these days we have such a lack of education about creation, like what is creative. And what do you think about, you know, how is important do you think it is to find out how people actually envision a creative society? What do they understand, you know, under this, and whether they want to live in such society too? And these days, how it is important actually to raise such questions during the conversation with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's two things that come to mind when you talk about that. So, I mean, education is just another format for indoctrination generally. Yeah. So the education system is typically based on rote learning. It's based on, you know, information that, you know, that's often censored these days. Like if you look at actually what's happening in the US with the books that are being, you know, taken out of production because they're no longer politically correct. So, you know, education is an indoctrination system. It's also educating people to be well behaved, conform in groups, and, you know, to set yourself up to get a job and to do all these sorts of things, right? So, you know, there will come a time that there will be massive changes in education. I've always been a big believer in varied education. I homeschool both of my girls. They have spent time in regular schools as well, but we spent time homeschooling them as well. And what was really interesting in that process was, over the 8 hours that a child is out of school, there's actually only about 2 hours of learning per day. The rest of it is filling in time, doing sport, eating lunch, you know, going out to preschool. So you know, there's a lot of filler that happens in the education system, and there's a lot of conformity that happens. And so this is one of the ways in which we're trained as human beings, is how we're educated. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting the next couple of years to see that breakdown, and that's already happening. People are realizing that university degrees don't necessarily mean that you get a job. People have pivoted to the world of online, so there's, you know, people are used to doing courses online. You know, there's a lot of other options, and people are realizing that, you know, different skills are needed. Your society is changing, right? So the whole way of, you know, going through university, getting a job, traveling to an office, working 9 to 5, it's all gone, right? And even though, you know, people are talking about things going back to normal after COVID, it will never be the same again. You know, there will always be, you know, this part working from home, this arrangement where, you know, some people were hired never to work from an office. Companies are closing down, you know, their commercial real estate because they're realizing that they're not needing those sorts of spaces. So all of this is already starting to happen, you know. And what happens is as that workplace arrangement changes and you start to look at flexible hours and all sorts of things like that, then, you know, education will have to change to suit that, right? So the changes will be coming, right? But obviously, you know, education typically is set by the governments, you know, around the world. And so once again, the control of how people are educated is at a government level, right? So there's probably going to be some really interesting things that will happen with that. But, you know, the second thing that I wanted to say about all of that was, you know, when you have that sense of personal freedom and being able to create, one of the most important freedoms that you have is the ability to speak your mind and to be liberated enough to present what your beliefs are and to have your beliefs, you know, accepted, whether they're right or wrong or different to another. It really doesn't matter. But that is a personal freedom, is you know, speech and voice, and it is a very important way that we claim our freedom in life, is being able to speak authentically, speak honestly, speak our minds without fear of, you know, rejection, judgment, repatriation, ridicule. You know, the list goes on. And so, you know, often, you know, many of us are afraid to really speak honestly about what we feel, what we think, what we believe, for fear of judgment. So once again, we're back in that fear. We're in that fear energy, right? That fear of not being able to speak out, to, you know, to be, you know, authentic and honest. And so, you know, this is a very important thing, that people start to talk about the fact that there are other options, there are other ways of thinking, there are other possibilities. And, you know, we're also being trained at the moment to receive information a lot, you know. So, you know, we get a lot of information through our phones, we watch a lot of things online. But you know, we were having a conversation earlier today about, well, what about communication out? You know, how do we support people communicating? And obviously, you know, the internet is wonderful because people can connect all around the world. They can have conversations. There are forums, there are chat groups, but it's also confusing because there's so much information and there's so much prejudice. There's so much manipulation of information generally. But, you know, being able to feel safe enough to communicate what your truth is a fundamental freedom in life. And so, you know, really understanding that and, you know, protecting that is you know, an essential thing. And I do believe that that's, you know, at the heart of the creative society, is opening a dialogue for people to have honest conversations about what is the type of society we want to live in. Because, you know, as I said before, these things take time, but it all starts somewhere, right? And in the beginning, they said, you know, in the beginning there was the word, and words are very powerful. They're still vibrations, right? So we place things into the world with the words that we say. And so that's why on a personal note, you know, if there's something that we want to achieve or do in our life, the language that we use is really important, because we're creating even as we do that. So the words that we choose, you know, often reflect what we're really thinking, right? But being able to have those discussions, those open dialogues, to, you know, dream of different possibilities, to accept other people for their vision and their interpretation, their understanding of what that might be, is a fundamental personal freedom. So to me, I think that, you know, there's those two things. And it's interesting because we believe that education gives us freedom. And in some ways it does, and in some ways it doesn't, because it indoctrinates us into a particular way of thinking, in particular frameworks, into particular beliefs about things. And so, you know, it's a little bit like the, you know, carpe diem, you know, seize the day. You know, you have to be prepared to challenge the status quo, because the only thing that's constant in life is change. That is the only thing that is constant in life, is change. And so the world is changing around us, whether we like it or not. You know, when it's overwhelming, we want to crawl back into our little cozy hole and cuddle up with our cup of tea and not move because it's frightening. Well, the fact is, the world is changing, right? That's a fundamental truth in life. So, you know, we can either contribute to that being a constructive, creative, positive change, or we can do nothing and pretend and hope that we're neutral, right? Or we can resist, you know, refrain, persist, and be destructive with the way in which we engage with that.
Absolutely, it's all in our choice, because really, you know, creative society is the choice of all people. So that's also, you know, like the freedom of choice. We are like, it's, you totally say it right, that really we are like changing, society is changing, but in which way? People are choosing, and really we are doing it by our hands. That's 100 rightly you said. Thank you so much. So really, you know, like unfortunately our conversation coming to the end, and I hope it will not finish and we continue somewhere, because indeed, Joanna, thank you so much, because really today's conversation is so interesting, was so enriching. So I really appreciate that you find time and to participate in such conversation, and really honestly share how do you see our future society. So thank you so much. And also, as a tradition, we are using the theory of the 6 handshakes. So it's really an interesting one that proves and shows us that we are all connecting in less than 5 or connection, or even less, because of social media what we have nowadays. So Joanna, whom you would like to invite to hear his or her vision of creative society and participate in our next program?
Yeah, so there's a beautiful woman in Ireland, actually, who does incredible work with people. Her name's Emma Weaver. So I think definitely this would be something, you know, she just came to mind. And, you know, I think that she would have some very interesting and beautiful ways of looking at things. So, yeah, it would be Emma Weaver in Ireland. So I think that she would love to have a chat with you.
Really, thank you so much. We are really looking forward, you know, to have her in our next session. Thanks a lot. And also would like to address to our viewers, so if someone also would like to participate in such conversation and to get know more, a little bit more about creative society, so please visit the website ALLATRAunites.com, and there you can find the red button, join us. It's actually very easy to do, just to press this button. You see there's many languages available. You could just fill the form, and that how you like all the participants of ALLATRA movement could connect to you and understand in which way you would like to participate. Because indeed, you know, this kind of join us button, it's I say it's just like stop being silent, because as Joanna today also said, that in our moves we are making some changes, and when we are silent we also are making something, but not in a good way. So that's why we have to take the responsibility and really work towards benefit of our society, because it's our society. We are, you know, responsible for our earth because we are living on it, and we are responsible for its destiny. So it's really up to us. And Joanna, thank you so much for your participation. Maybe we forget something to ask you, or you would like to wish to all people.
No, well, I just wanted to thank you because, as with all things, it's also brought to mind, things that are happening for me in my life and the next step and how I'm contributing and how it is that I choose to show up in society. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and the opportunity to clarify that also as a part of my next journey. But just wherever you are in the world, whatever it is that's happening in your life, just, I wish peace and love for you at the heart of it all. And just know that you have everything that you need, and that in fact you have all of the power to create whatever life it is that you choose to believe in. So sounds corny and simple, but it's so true. It's really true. It's really true. And it's that there's a beautiful story about where God decided to hide the gem of human power. And so, they thought, well, will we hide it in a mountain? Will we hide it in the ocean? Will we hide it in the middle of the desert? And then they realized they would hide it within the humans themselves. And so inside of us is everything that we need. And, we always look outside of ourselves for everything, but just take a moment to look inside yourself. You have everything that you need to create the life that you choose to, not only for you, but for others too. Because remember, whatever we give out comes back tenfold. So, it's just operating on that principle alone is enough to encourage people to shift. If you want more love in your life, be more loving. You want more joy in your life, be more joyful, because whatever it is that you're emitting, it's going to come back to you tenfold. So, yeah. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it too.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. Anastasia, you would like something to add?
Yep. Thank you very much for being with us today. Joanna, yes. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Lovely to be connected to another beautiful human being here in Australia and around the planet. So I really appreciate your time with me, Anastasia. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna, one more time. And just at the end, let's listen to one really beautiful song. It's just the anthem of humanity. It was firstly hearing on the International Global Conference, Creative Society, what the prophets dreamed of. And indeed, we are free people, and we are deserved to live in a human, peaceful, harmonious society. That's who we really are. It's actually in our nature to live like this. And it's really up to us. Could we create such society or not? But really we can, because as Joanna said, we really have a huge potential within us. So thank you one more time, and please enjoy the song. Goodbye to all, and see you next time.
We are more than 99%. We are people of the earth. We stand for our prophets' words and truth. We are more than 99%, all united in one God, in one love. Our prophets' dreams come true. We are the 99%, but we are often being fooled by those who are only 1%. Rights and freedom too. They took our benefits away and left out with your simple rights. Our right to die for their gain, and right to listen to their lies. 1% of them, 99 the truth, and we know what's fake.
We are more than 99%.
Нас больше 90%.
All prophets dream of peace and love in pure, united, happy world. We friendship and respect among all humans. It is what they told. We want to build a better world where all of us are fully safe, where nobody has ever heard. We meet with joyful every day. In unity we stand, all humanity, building on your creative society. World of peace and harmony, our prophets' dreams to be. We are more than 99%. We are people of the earth. We stand for our prophets' words and truth.